Apparently, the Chicago Bulls are potentially looking to trade Zach Lavine. Let's talk about it. What is going on, y'all? Faiz Sports Talk back at it with another video talking, of course, I'm an NBA here to talk about the Chicago Bulls. So if you're a Bulls fan, and I know it is very hard to be one right now, but if you are one, please do make sure to subscribe. Even if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you're following me on my social platforms, guys. As always, hit the bell icon so you're notified every time I drop a new video. So, per Jake L. Fisher, who is a reporter for Yahoo Sports, apparently the Bulls are kind of gauging the interest from teams around the league on their star, Zach Lavine. So I got a lot of thoughts here. Let's just start with my first one, which is I'm not surprised by this. I'm not surprised by this because the Bulls should be exploring every option available to them in order to pick a direction, right? They need to pick a direction. The current one, which really isn't a direction, doesn't work, all right? Where they're headed right now is no man's land. With their current core of Lavine, DeRozan, Vooch, this team has capped out. It's hit a ceiling. It is not a championship contender. Now, you can certainly add to it, but they don't have the resources to do so. They don't have the salary cap space to do so. They don't have the draft picks to do so. So they have to pick a direction, all right? And you can't be stuck in mediocrity, right? The worst place to be is mediocrity in just sports in general because it's quicksand, right? If you want to get good, you have to get really bad first, right? Tanking is the way to go. Or you have to be able to just acquire guys via free agency or trade. And I just mentioned the lack of resources. The Bulls have to do that. And so when we talk about Zach Lavine, you know, it makes sense in the aspect of if you're going to go ahead and do a full rebuild, Zach's going to have to go along with Vooch and DeRozan, but Zach is your biggest asset and you are going to get the biggest haul for a guy like Zach if you do a full rebuild. So, for example, the Blazers, right? They're interested in building around Damian Lillard. He really does not want to use that number 3 overall pick that they have. Well, what if you're the Bulls? You trade Zach to the Blazers for the number 3 overall pick and a bunch of different assets that they have, maybe like a Anthony Simons, etc., and you take Scoot Henderson. So now, like, you have a young player to build around. You're fully rebuilding, embracing the tank, but you know in the future you're going to get good. So that's an avenue. The other route, too, is, you could potentially keep Zach and build around him, too. So, like, there's all of these avenues. But I'm not surprised by this because the Bulls should be looking at every different possibility. Now, would I trade Zach? Here's where I'm at. Do I feel like Zach Lavine is good enough to build around and be a number 1 option? The answer right now is more likely than not, no. He is probably the second best player on a title team, maybe third best if you have really two good players. But I don't think he is a superstar, and you usually need a superstar to be a number 1 player on a title team. But the Bulls did make this mistake a few years back with Jimmy Butler, thinking that he wasn't good enough to be a star player on a title team. And he's taken Miami to 2 finals in 4 years. Now, they didn't win, so you might still say, hey, he still didn't win them a chip, but he did take them. And so I'm afraid maybe, hey, could that same thing happen to Zach there where we regret this? I think Zach Lavine's immensely talented, man. I think he is one of the most underrated players in the game. It's hard to find a guy like Zach, so if you are trading him, you better get a haul. You better get a stupid haul. I'm talking like a great package. This is not a guy you are trading for pennies on the dollar. I'm sorry, you're just not. He is that damn good. Not good enough to be a number 1 on a title contender, but he is very good. And so I would ask myself that question. And if the answer is no, then yeah, you probably are going to have to embrace a full rebuild. And folks, I'm telling you, like, you can't get around this. There's only so much retooling you can do. If you want to go ahead and run it back for another year, it's like, what else is it going to do, right? And so at this point, there is the other direction I talked about, building around Zach. Maybe you can trade away DeMar and Vooch. Well, Vooch is a free agent, but you can try to see what you can put around Zach. But even in that avenue, you don't have the resources. So the Bulls are really at a tough spot here. They're at a really tough spot here because technically speaking, there's only two options. Either you run it back because you can't add to this core outside of like a trade where you're able to rip some team off, which probably won't happen because, again, you don't have salary cap space to add big-time free agents, or you do a full rebuild and you tear everything down. And so to me, if I'm the Bulls, I'm trying to pick a direction and see where I can go with that. I have a feeling the Bulls are going to pick the former and they're going to run it back again. They're going to re-sign Vooch. They're going to not trade Zach, and they're going to try to find a way to, build around this team again. I think a long-term rebuild is inevitable, honestly, folks. And I love Zach Lavine. I want to keep him. Like, I wish it could work, but we know the answer in the NBA is you need superstars, and we don't have one, right? I love Zach. I hope he can make that leap, but it's tough. It's tough right now. So I'm not surprised by this. It's due diligence. Let's see what happens here. But I would tell you, I think I'd be surprised if they do move him. I think they are going to run it back again. That is what my gut tells me. Let me know what you guys think, man. Leave a comment down below as always.